The last day of preseason has arrived and officially ends Formula 1 testing, and there will be no more activity until it's time to see the green light for the Australian Grand Prix. The strangest and most chaotic preseason I've ever seen comes to an end, and it's very hard to draw conclusions from 3 such complicated days, which today included some broken glass from the main straights booth, a bus getting onto the track, and an extremely unstable circuit. Even so, ladies and gentlemen, the cars have run laps, and therefore it's time for us to give the final summary of these tests and see what the teams have shown us on this last day at the Bahrain circuit. Sauber ends their Formula 1 preseason with a complicated day, as they were one of the teams with the fewest laps completed, and today they only managed 104 laps. This happened because Gabriel Bortoletto's car had a floor problem during his morning session, and they lost a large part of the morning repairing it, which meant the Brazilian could only complete 35 laps. In the afternoon, it was Nico Hülkenberg's turn, who was able to make better use of the day and followed a long-run program for his team. He finished the day with 69 laps, with his best time being 1:31.726, which put him in 14th position at the end of the day. It wasn't such a productive day for Sauber, and although it's hard to draw conclusions in this preseason, especially with how chaotic the day has been, it seems that the back of the grid seems to be waiting for the future Audi team once again. Aston Martin finishes a preseason with little mileage problems and above all a lot of uncertainty heading into the start of the season. Stroll and Alonso completed 116 laps together, but the whole program was ruined because the night before, both Alonso and Stroll got sick. Alonso, who was scheduled to drive in the afternoon, ended up driving in the morning, but he didn't do any race simulations. In the afternoon, Lance Stroll drove for a few hours until he felt sick again. With under 2 hours left, he returned to the car. Alonso focused on doing long stints with the C2 tire until the session ended, but the car had handling problems, instability, and some wear all day. The outlook is not positive at all, and within the team they've already said they expect to start the season far behind. In any case, Lance Stroll set the team's best time with a 1:31.699, which put him in 13th place, but without race simulations, without any fixes, and with many problems in a rather limited preseason. Haas finishes their preseason with another session of many laps, once again being the team with the most mileage accumulated today, with their 2 drivers completing 162 laps. Oliver Behrman, responsible for driving in the morning, once again drove the car fully fueled. They had a small incident when a part of the engine cover flew off, but he was able to get back on track without major problems, testing the C3 tire with a high fuel load, and therefore finished with the highest time of the day with a 1:32.361. In the afternoon, Esteban Ocon put in a marathon of laps, running 103 laps solo, doing race simulations, but at least his times during his stints were not entirely promising. And after this, he made a small attempt at a fast lap that left him in 8th position on the timesheet with a time of 1:30.728. With this program, they finished their preseason, and there are predictions that the Americans have taken a small step back in 2025. The Racing Bulls finish another day with a lot of mileage accumulated, having completed 160 laps today. In the morning, Isaac Hadjar was on the track, having a lot of activity with the medium tire at the beginning of the session and then doing different programs from RB's work plan, completing only 73 laps today. In the afternoon, it was Tsunoda's turn, in charge of doing more long runs and a race simulation. And later, when the circuit lights came on, he made an attempt at a fast lap, finishing 7th with a time of 1:30.497. The impressions left by the Visa Cash App Racing Bulls are relatively decent, but with everything that happened today, it's very hard to draw any conclusions. With this, Racing Bulls finishes preseason. Now we just have to see what the first race brings. Ferrari finishes their preseason with 113 laps completed today, on a day where the true potential of the SF25 couldn't really be seen either. In the morning, Charles Leclerc drove the car and set his best time before strong winds hit, making him the leader of the session. And after that, the conditions became very difficult for testing long runs, so in the end he focused on doing a few short stints. In the afternoon, Hamilton took over the car and started his session with many short stints, and he was never able to try a long run during the whole session, struggling with the track conditions and high tire degradation, which made his afternoon very unproductive. He finished with only 47 laps. His best lap attempt gave him a time of 1:30.345, and overall, Ferrari ends the preseason with many doubts and very few answers for us. Alpine wraps up testing with 145 laps between its 2 drivers today, on a day that leaves the team feeling positive. In the morning, Dujan drove and was quicker than the Williams during his fast laps in this session. Afterwards, he did several aerodynamic tests and short stints, finishing the day with 61 laps and handing over the car in the afternoon to Pierre Gasly, who was at the top of the timesheets very early on, having set a fast time and even briefly leading the session. And after that, Gasly continued with his race simulation program and did some stints. He completed a total of 84 laps and finished the preseason in 6th position with a time of 1:30.040. And the general feeling is that Alpine will be one of the teams fighting in the midfield, although we'll confirm that in a couple of weeks. Today, McLaren had a slightly tougher time than what we saw yesterday.
Pero hoy tuvieron su día más productivo con 142 vueltas anotadas en una jornada que no despeja la inquietud de lo que vimos el día de ayer.
In the morning, Lando Norris was in the car, who was quite affected by the windy conditions on the track, but also in his short runs, the MCL39 looked very oversteery. In fact, he almost had 2 incidents because of this, but it could be that the instability was due to the track temperature being different from yesterday or the strong gusts of wind. Either way, they did some long runs and ended the morning with the 3rd fastest time, and in the afternoon it was Oscar Piastri's turn, who once again ran a long run program for the team, but slower than what we saw yesterday, as well as a race simulation. His best attempt at a fast lap allowed him to be the 4th fastest of the day, and with that, he finished the preseason with a favorite status that is very hard to confirm, at least as of today. For Williams, this time the car was in the hands of Alex Albon all day, who closed the preseason for Grubb's team by completing 137 laps. In the morning, despite some brief work on the rear of his car, he was able to complete the different programs set by the team, working in short stints with medium and hard tires. And in the afternoon, he focused on doing long stints with the hard tire, maintaining a steady pace on the C2 compound. In fact, his stint was very promising and he made some attempts at a fast lap, managing to place 3rd using the C4 tire and setting a time of 1:29.65. With this, Williams ends the testing session with a season that could look promising, as this team may have made a small step forward, although we will only be able to confirm that in just 15 days. Yes. Red Bull, just like Williams, used Verstappen throughout the entire day today, and we were waiting to see how the car would perform with the driver it was naturally designed for, but his session was not revealing at all. They tested different wings, only completed 81 laps in total, and Red Bull gives me the impression that they are still hiding the true potential of their car. He began his morning with a few laps and pitot rake tests, followed by short runs on the C3 tire where he had a few scares and went off track a few times but without any issues. In the afternoon, the program remained similar as he tried fast laps, set his best time on the C3 tire, and led much of the session, but really without revealing absolutely anything, actually having a small spin in the final stages, although without any consequences. With this, Red Bull ends the preseason as the team that completed the fewest laps, and their current position is a complete mystery. They appear to have fixed most of the RB20's issues and may be closer to the front than it seems, but today's results don't allow for many conclusions. Mercedes ends the preseason with another very productive day for the German team, completing 152 laps together and being one of the teams with the most laps in this entire preseason. Antonelli handled the morning session, who at first did short stints fighting for the lead in the morning session, where his start was marked by the use of the C3 tire and several fast attempts. Later, he did slightly longer stints with fuel and simulated race conditions, trying to overtake Albon, I assume to understand how the car works during overtaking. In the afternoon, George Russell completed a session marked by numerous long stints. One notable stint was 23 laps on medium tires, followed by another of 13 laps on hard tires. And in the end, in the final moments of testing, during a fast lap attempt, he took the best time from Verstappen, setting a time of 1:29.545 and finishing the preseason on top, even though this doesn't mean anything. The feeling Mercedes leaves is positive, but their stints don't confirm that they'll be fighting for victory from the very first race. However, with a preseason that's so hard to read, honestly at this point, as I've said throughout the video, we really don't know anything for sure. Ladies and gentlemen, this concludes our comparison. Coverage of the 3 days of preseason, marked by unstable weather, completely absurd moments, and overall, a lot of uncertainty about what awaits us in this first race of the season. The only thing I can sense and predict on a very personal note is that McLaren looks like the favorite, but we'll have to see how big that advantage is. I got the impression that Red Bull could be the main challenger at the start of this World Championship and perhaps not as far behind McLaren as Ferrari and Mercedes are. They have a lot of work ahead, although there is a lot of parity among the top 4 teams. The fight for the midfield and 5th place in the Constructors' Championship could be between Alpine and Williams at the start of the season, at least in the beginning. In Australia, the bottom of the field will be contested by Aston Martin, Racing Bulls, Haas and the Sauber team. I invite you to share your predictions for how the Constructors' Championship will end with a quick activity. Look, leave your prediction in the comments about how the team championship will end at the end of the season, and those who get it exactly right, I will give them a kit of clothing from their favorite team that will include a jacket, a t-shirt, and a cap. Obviously, as rules, predictions with edited comments or those written 15 days after the publication of this video will not be allowed. So if someone gets these predictions right, you can get a nice kit of your team's clothing completely free. Ladies and gentlemen, this concludes our short video and preseason coverage. If you like this video, give us a thumbs up, subscribe to this channel, turn on notifications so you know when I'm uploading a new video, and share this with your friends. Follow us on Instagram and Twitter using the links in the video description. See you soon at the World Championship kickoff at the Australian Grand Prix. I'm Skyline Racing and thank you very much for tuning in. See you later.